Hi, welcome back to Oneness. Thank you for joining me in this 81 days journey with 81 verses of Tao Te Ching. Today is day 3 and we will be looking at verse 3 of Tao Te Ching. So before we dive in, let's observe a few seconds of silence. Thank you. So now, let's get into verse 3 of Tao Te Ching. So the verse 3 goes like this. Not exalting the gifted prevents quarreling. Not collecting treasures prevent stealing. Not saying desirable things prevents confusion of the hearts. The wise, therefore, rule by emptying hearts and stuffing bellies, by weakening ambition and strengthening bones. If people lack knowledge and desire, then it is best not to interfere. If nothing is done, then all will be well. Let's allow a few seconds to sink in. So the first line, not exalting the gifted prevents quarreling. So what does it mean? So the other translation that I read, when you appreciate someone excessively, there is a competition is born. So what does it mean? Sometimes we just go overboard with showing affection or appreciating someone, whereas the other person was felt unappreciated. So what happens is it brings in a natural thing that he feels disconnected or he feels, oh, I am not worthy to be appreciated, right? So that is why not overly appreciating someone may not be the good idea. And this example that, I see it every single day at my home is whenever I speak to my daughter and then I show, oh, Adya, you did good. By the way, my daughter's name is Adya. So when I say, Adya, you did wonderful things and great things, my son, on the other hand, he will feel sad. And he will just come to me and say, so I am not good. That's what he asks. So though my intention is not to hurt him, however, when I'm just prizing one, the other one feels left out. So this we can see in a day-to-day thing. So that is why whether you're prizing or showing your anger, do it in a private. So let's move on to the next line. Not collecting treasures prevents stealing. Not seeing desirable things prevents confusion of the heart. Wonderful lines again. So not collecting treasures prevents stealing. So what happens to our human beings? So the one who doesn't have steals from the one who has, right? Because he also feels that the people take advantage of their position and then they start accumulating a lot of things which they may not need. They may not be content with what they have. Instead, they collect so much and then that rises the other person who doesn't have to steal. So the thieves are actually born because the one person who decided to collect everything for himself, so the other one created. So that brings us to the next line. The wise, therefore, rule by emptying hearts and stuffing bellies. So here, one of the interesting thought about this is the stuffing bellies, right? So, which we don't hear very often because emptying hearts and stuffing bellies. Okay, so that means that, so you don't have any desire, but then you keep eating and stuffing stuff? No. So, what Lao Tzu would have meant is, see, these are very ancient words. When stuffing bellies means, so think of a hunter and gatherer society, the old way of living. So the people doesn't store food because they didn't have a means to store food, right? They didn't have a fridge or something to store food. Yes, there were few other ways which they invented later on. However, in the beginning, they will whenever they're hungry, they go for a hunt and then bring in, and then they eat the food. They share the fruits, everything. But then they also starve for a longer period of time. And it's always they share with everyone. So this brings us to one more quick story. This is about, this story I can call it as Ubuntu. And most of you must have heard about the Ubuntu as an operating system. But this story is named Ubuntu. So once there was this anthropologist who visited Africa. And he was in a tribal village. And one day he decided to treat the child in the village. So he kept a big basket filled with sweets next to a tree. And he called all the kids from the village. He just moved a few hundred meters. And then he said, okay, so now whoever ran faster and reached this tree first, take all the chocolates from the bowl. And then he said, ready, set, go. For his surprise, something very differently happened, right? So each one of them, they held the other person's hand together. They all ran together to the tree and then equally shared all the chocolates in the bowl, and then they enjoyed that together. So this anthropologist got confused. What is it? I thought, when I say ready, set, go, someone will run faster to get all the things they want. But then against that, all these kids here, they ran together and took and shared the chocolates for all themselves. And when he asked the kids, what did you guys do? All the kids said was, Ubuntu. What it means is, how can I be happy when someone is unhappy? Think about it. How can I be happy when someone is unhappy? So the happiness of one single individual like us, it has to come from the others as well. So not everything for myself. So actually, if you look at what are the resources that actually we need. So for an example, be air, water, or a food. How much of air that we can inhale in a day? Right? The air is there. However, how much of it someone can take in? Not much in a day. Right? So the nature way is when you want it, it is there. But then what our mindset has become is I have to store it for the future. We always live in the future that, I wanted to share it and store it for the future. What if I run out of all these things? And as well as we also think about our future generations. And this mentality that you can see it every single time, that we want to accumulate things for future and future generation, which naturally depletes the resource for someone. And that is where all the problem rise. So think of this. Even in a spiritual journey, when most people, they want to follow someone to reach a state of awakening and enlightenment, the problem is this. They follow someone, which is fair, but then they blindly follow. At the same time, I'm not saying that following is bad. What I'm trying to say is you being a good student is very important. Being a good student, and then you learn a lot of things from your gurus and teachers. But what happens when you become a blind follower of all their teaching? And you always prize someone, or you keep the other person at the top and you're always down. So always you're going to feel that I am not worthy to be that godly person. Even praying to the gods, be it any god, so when whoever we go and pray, all these enlightened beings, be it Jesus, Muhammad, or Krishna, or Shiva, or Buddha, anybody. All that means is they are godly beings and they are enlightened ones, saying that, I am not a match to them. We are also lowering our own standard, and then we are just trying to live by. And that is why most of the time we also hear someone says, hey, I am not a saint. I am not a god. Whenever we expect something better of them and a higher standard, we always say, I am not a god. Why are we expecting the godly nature? So here I like to challenge the thought is, what if you are God? Think about it. So when we hold ourselves with the godly nature, then how we see the life, how we will treat someone else. Do we still fight over a petty things? Even in a relationship, do we just still hold on to something and not give to the other person? How much love we can show to someone if we are God? Think about it for a moment. So I truly believe the God, when we call someone as God, or when we praise someone at the God or an enlightened being, it's time for us to realize that even we are a godly beings and we yet to realize the fact. And the moment we realize it, all our behaviors and everything that changes for good. We don't act as if, oh, I am not a God and I'm a simple human being. Instead, we live in a place where how the God behaves. There is no limitation to anything. Be it love or abundance, everything is there. And then we want to give it to people how much ever they want. So that is what these words conveys to me today. With that said, let's come to the actionable thought for today. So the actionable thought is, look out for desires that arises within you today. It can be for anything, the desire for the materialistic thing or something else that you wanted to achieve some goal or etc. Instead of acting immediately, allow that desire to sink in. Just observe where is this desire is coming from. Is it going to really give me happiness and peace, which I always want? Is it going to give me that? And also, you can look back at your past and see that in the past, when you set some goals or when you purchase certain things for yourself, which out of your desire, is that gave you a long-lasting happiness and peace? And if not, question yourself, what can give you that eternal peace and happiness? With that, let's conclude for today, day 3, and see you tomorrow.